Good evening, everybody. I'll put my glasses on. So, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here today, and in particular, I do want to acknowledge that we have a representative from the Department of Education. We have Elizabeth Rose, who is the Deputy Chancellor of the New York City Department of Education, who is really a partner with us in this effort. We also have Marissa Shorenstein, who will be moderating the panel, but I definitely want to acknowledge she's the Senior Vice President of AT&T, the East Region. They've been an incredible partner here with us, as well as Jane Clementi, the founder of the Tyler Clementi Foundation, who will be on the panel as well. So thank you to the three of you for your participation. And I want to thank all of you for being here. We always say this is the people's house. Especially the parents and young people who have made the time to join us for this really important event and what I believe is a very critical time in our society. I'm grateful to be joined here today by leading experts in new media, in technology, and internet safety, who have all come together to combat the pervasive problem of cyberbullying. We couldn't do this without our partners, the advocates and organizations who dedicate their lives to the betterment of New York City's children. According to a poll conducted earlier this year by AT&T and the Tyler Clementi Foundation in New York City metro area, nearly 50% of teens report having experienced cyberbullying at some point, while 8 in 10 teens know another student who has been the victim of cyberbullying. Cyberbullying, unlike the conventional bullying we all think of, doesn't stop when a student leaves the classroom. In fact, most cyberbullying happens outside of school and can spike during the summer break, which is the importance of having this right now. It is more important than ever to find new ways to stop harassment and use social media to promote upright digital citizenship. As I announced earlier this year during my State of the City address, we must work to tackle cyberbullying at its roots. In the era of the internet, bullies everywhere have taken their efforts to the digital level, causing undue depression, anxiety, and psychological stress for thousands of victims across the country. Cyberbullying has spiraled into an epidemic, and it must be stopped. That is why I'm proud that the City Council has collaborated with the DOE, with the Department of Education. I was going to say the DOE Fund, but the Department of Education, and the Mayor's Office to create the Respect for All program in our public schools, which works to build learning environments that are supportive of diversity and trains teachers and staff to best deal with bullying. They have also committed to join us at these public forums on cyberbullying in every borough. As we indicated, we're going to do these in every borough of the city. Hopefully, our combined efforts will not only send out a clear message that bullying of any kind will not be tolerated, but will also work as a reminder that help is never far away. And I have to say, I think there's a way of always, talking about experiences. Those of us that are adults, have experience, have built tough shells and outer exteriors, we're not, immune to cyberbullying either. How many times do I get harassed or attacked on Twitter or on Facebook for positions that I've taken as an elected official? But obviously, because of the experience that I've gathered in this position, you're able to figure out ways to handle it, right? How do we share those experiences and maybe be able to build an environment or some sort of collaboration and share those experiences with young people to say that they're not alone in this and that there's ways to deal with it and there's ways, there's where they can get help, right? There are places that they can seek solace or help. And so I'm hoping that these conversations and these borough conversations will allow us to really bring out to the forefront the challenges that our young people face today in the era of technology, and then figure out ways to give them an outlet and give them support and let them know that they're not alone and that they should be able to ask for help if they need it. And I think involving the parents in this conversation is critical because you also need to see the signals. You also need to see the signs if something is wrong, and you need to figure out how you can bring the support to the household or to your children. And that's what we're here to do. And so I'm glad that we've been able to put this together. And really happy about the conversation that will happen tonight and in the other boroughs as well. And I will leave it there and then ask now Elizabeth Rose, our Deputy Chancellor of the New York City Department of Education, to come and say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Department of Education is very excited to be here today and to partner in this effort with AT&T, with Common Sense Media, with the Clementi Foundation, and with the other partners that are here with us today, and of course with City Council. We are dedicated to providing all of our students with a safe, supportive, inclusive environment in all of our school buildings. And while cyberbullying happens outside of the school building, it is part of our school discipline code. So our teachers, our staff can in fact bring students in to address issues of cyberbullying in the schools, even when the event takes place outside of schools. It has an impact on our schools, and therefore it is part of our work and our effort to combat bullying in any form for our students. And all bullying is bad, but cyberbullying amplifies the impact of bullying. It creates more distance between the bullier and the victim, which can make what is said or what is shared a little bit more pointed or more vicious. And it can be more public. It is not something that's simply said from one person to the other, but through sharing and through some of the things that are positive about social media, it can become shared exponentially and really effectively be public statements about somebody that are unexpected. Well, you can't combat what you don't know about, and so we are delighted to be here as part of this effort to educate our parents, to educate our students on how to be responsible digital citizens, how to recognize the signs of cyberbullying, and how to help all of our young people be responsible with their use of social media. I'm a parent of teenagers. I know, I get it. And so this effort is incredibly valuable for all of our students and all of our schools. So thank you so much for hosting this event, and we're delighted to be here as participants in the panel.
And now I'm going to hand it off to Marissa Shorenstein, as I mentioned, who's the Senior Vice President of AT&T, the East Region. She's going to introduce a film, but also she will be moderating the panel. So she'll be coming up and also introducing the panelists, what organizations they represent, and then lead us into the conversation. So with that, Marissa, I'll hand it off to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Speaker, for being a part of this effort with us, for having us here in your chambers this evening. We're really delighted to be here. So why AT&T and cyberbullying? It seems somewhat incongruous, but smartphones really have changed the world. And when they came out in 2007, overnight usage went up first by 10,000%, today over the past 10 years by 250,000%. And we live in a different world today than we did just 10 years ago. And what does that mean? It means technology has done so much to make our lives better. It has helped teens and parents and all of us in so many ways. We know how to get places more easily. We know how to research things more quickly. We can find answers and help when we need it. It's done so much good, but there are consequences, sometimes negative consequences, that comes with all of that good. And so many years ago, we started a campaign against texting and driving called It Can Wait. And that had been the first negative consequence that we really saw from putting smartphones in the hands of young people who were first-time drivers. And we worked really hard to educate them about the dangers of driving and texting. And then we thought to ourselves, over the past few years, working with my colleague Neil Jacoby, who's spearheaded this entire effort for AT&T, what else have been unintended negative consequences that have resulted from technology and the great things that it does for us? And we came to realize that cyberbullying had started to become one of those things, especially over the past few years. And so we sought to find a partner that really understood this issue better than anyone, and that was Jane Clementi with the Tyler Clementi Foundation. And Jane has taken her extraordinary personal story and pain and turned that into something really useful and good for the world and educating people about the dangers of cyberbullying. And so we worked with her and her foundation first to do a poll, as the speaker mentioned, about what students were actually facing. And we learned a lot. We learned what we didn't know because we didn't grow up with this technology and we don't really understand the impact that it has on young lives. And what we learned is that most students, 8 out of 10, either have been bullied or know someone who's been bullied as a result of cyberbullying. And so we took it a step further and we said, what are we going to do about this? We need to put together an education campaign. And so we worked with the All-American High School Film Festival, who are here with us this evening, and we had a contest, a nationwide contest of students, to put together films from their perspectives about what this was doing to them and to their friends and to their families, and the crisis that was really unfolding before us. The film really highlighted, or the submissions, the gravity of the situation. And we saw dozens of student films sharing their personal experiences and the emotion captured by young people who had faced these stories in their own lives. And so we wanted to work with the public sector, and we had a really receptive audience with both DOE and the speaker and City Council to bring this message to students, to parents, and to educators, because we really believe that the only way to help ensure that we can put an end to this crisis is to help people understand, especially parents and educators, what they can do to help their children and students. And so that's why we're here tonight. Parents are on the front lines of this crisis, and many of them, and even today I'm a parent, and I didn't grow up with social media either. And our kids don't often tell us about the new challenges that they're facing on these platforms. We have the power to take action, but one question is standing in our way: how? And that's when we came to our newest partner, Common Sense Media, who put together really wonderful materials to help parents to understand how they can talk to their children about this. So tonight we're here to collectively answer this question. And before we get to the panel, we have our new film, There's a Soul Behind That Screen, to share with you. This film includes parts of the wonderful films produced by those students during the Cyberbullying Film Invitational, and the new parent guide, as I mentioned, created by Common Sense Media for this program will be unveiled as well. It's our hope that collectively, along with the speaker and all of her council members and the DOE, that we can share this information with as many New York families as possible to help spread the word and to give parents and educators the tools that they need. So with that, I couldn't be prouder to introduce the film you're about to see, There's a Soul Behind That Screen. Thank you.
You disgust me.
You have really pretty eyes, but you're fat.
He will never go to prom with you, Miss Chlamydia.
You're a slut. Go kill yourself, bitch.
I'm so disappointed in you.
Let me go! Let me go! Let me go! Social medias that I have are
Snapchat,
Twitter,
Twitter,
Instagram,
Instagram.
I'll edit a couple times. Ask my parents or my friends
before I post something, and then the next step is like caption-wise. Gotta get those likes, you know.
Social media can be a powerful tool for a lot of people. I also believe that it could be a negative thing.
Something we deal with every day, and I don't think everybody realizes necessarily how much cyberbullying actually goes on.
And I think not a lot of people really realize like how prevalent of an issue it is and how serious it is. Some people, you know, don't even consider cyberbullying real bullying.
The feeling of being bullied on social media is extremely heart-wrenching and extremely embarrassing. I fear that people are gonna like talk bad about me. I'm really scared.
Tyra, you have not finished dinner.
I'm about to check my profile page. Is that okay?
Just be careful. People go on social media looking to take advantage of kids like you.
Yeah, don't worry, Ma. I'm careful what I post. I just want to see what my friends are doing because I'm popular.
First off, my sexual preference isn't even your business. Weirdo. Really? What evidence? You freak. You know what? I'm going to block you. Stop talking to me.
Oh my god, oh my god, no. Oh my god, oh my god. What? No, 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 no. That's not happening. No. Delete that. What are you doing with that? Ah, no.
I've seen people fall from cyberbullying. They've either just gave up on their lives, they lost their will to live, or they just got into drugs or alcohol. You can think about cyberbullying into a physical form. If you tear a paper in half, you can't make that paper whole again. You can tape it together, but will it ever be the same? No.
With social media so present in teenage life, adolescent humor has started to mimic the humor of the internet. Memes and internet battles have a certain flair for making fun of things. These takedowns involve a winner and a victim. Often the winner is congratulated and acknowledged on the internet for being a savage or something else along the lines of a king, because these winners are so rewarded for being clever, ironic, or just plain mean. More people are motivated to take aim at someone in hopes of being crowned a savage. To take someone down is often called roasting. People rarely shut down the roaster, even if they cross the line to hurtful, because they are either scared of being roasted themselves or being seen as dull. When it becomes a recurring instance or joke like a meme, it is hard for the roastee to escape, and the roaster, who is really a bully, is praised.
I got cyberbullied in the beginning of 10th grade, and this girl was posting anonymous comments on my pictures saying how I was ugly and fat, and she would send me texts about how she saw me in the hallway and I didn't look good that day, or something about my appearance, and she always had a nasty comment to say.
I always get body shamed for being thick or being too big.
So easy to send a photo of yourself. You know, you might trust somebody, but end up not being a trustworthy person. Even if it's behind their back, it's, you know, it's still cyberbullying. It's hurtful.
One time I posted a picture and I got like, it was like, oh, like, you're totally gay. Like, that's so gay. And it was like, okay. And then like they kept commenting.
I was FaceTiming her and like maybe something that I shouldn't have been. And she took a screenshot of me and sent it to a bunch of people at my school.
I felt like hurt at first because when somebody's saying a bunch of mean things to you, it kind of gets to you, even though you're taught not to worry about everybody else's opinion.
Like, I started questioning whether or not I should even keep my social media accounts because all of this negativity is just like held within it.
Last year I didn't want to go to school because of a person saying things online.
I didn't even like want to go outside. Oh, I didn't want to spend time with like friends because I thought I was like fat or so yeah.
You're so fat. Shut up, you're fine.
I can't believe your mom and dad left you guys alone for the weekend. Last time my mom left for a business trip, she hired a babysitter. She's crazy. Get out! God, Chase, go, no.
Brother is so annoying.
I don't know. He's not that bad.
Ew. I'm gonna go get some more to drink, and then I'm gonna talk to Sam.
God, how are you even friends with her? She's such a rat.
She is?
Yeah. Hey, do you want to go somewhere a little more quiet?
No. Chase, delete it. Delete it now.
Oh, come on.
Seriously.
Okay, fine. I'm deleting it.
You know how long we've been working on this story? Now we have edits. Shouldn't be eating this.
Yeah, and then now we're at deadline, and we don't have any leases yet, and so.
Hey, Ash. I'm so hungover.
What the hell, Zoe? Why would you do that?
Do what?
Don't try to act all innocent. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You hooked up with my brother.
I barely remember it. We were in the moment and drunk. I'm sorry.
Like drinking gives you an excuse? You're supposed to be my friend. Turns out you're just another slut who can't keep her legs closed.
What's your problem? I said I was sorry. I didn't mean for anything to happen.
Whatever, Zoe. You even let him take a picture. I've seen it. The whole school has.
Where were you?
I just went for a walk.
Do you have anything you want to tell me?
No, not really.
Well, I just got a call from Principal Miller.
Okay.
Okay? Is that all you have to say is okay? Is it okay that you're sending naked photos of yourself to kids at school? How could you be so stupid?
It's not my fault.
We have a meeting at the school Monday morning. Let's pray you don't get expelled.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is just darkness, like a void. Like a hole within the hole, something you can't escape from, no matter how hard you climb.
It's behind a computer screen, and people get brave when that happens, so they feel like they can say whatever they want.
I used to previously be bullied as a kid, and then as I got older, I felt like the only way to escape was to become the bully myself. What made me do it is just like being ridiculed and being an outcast as a child, and like trying to get the approval of my dad, because I got into a fight when I was really young, and he was really proud of me for like defending myself and hurting someone else. So I felt the only way to make him happy was to hurt others and just be known as that sort of kid.
I had to be like the class clown, someone that always jokes around, someone that likes to mess with people. Based on the reaction I got from it, people used to laugh, people used to joke around. I made a lot of friends, so I guess you could say I was a popular kid. And I didn't realize at the time, but I was hurting more people around me. I made them feel bad by making fun of them, just to crack a joke.
I remember one day specifically where we had just got him good, and he broke down and started crying in front of us. And that was probably the worst day because, you know, I could see the direct effects of my action, and it was like this whole time it had just built up, and I finally had seen him be a person, and I saw the humanity side of him.
The cyberbullying started in the fall of his sophomore year. The platforms that they used to bully David was mainly through technology, Instagram, Facebook.
After school, some of the other anonymous sites, regular texts, videos. Like most kids, he was attached to his phone, and there were texts coming in or messages coming in constantly, and that went late into the night.
He became withdrawn. He was depressed, didn't want to go to school, was afraid to go to school, slept a lot, and became angry at me because I couldn't fix the problem.
Just seemed to be a shell of himself. Before he was just happy and joyful person. And he was just, seemed more anxious and reserved, and he just wasn't the same.
He felt isolated and alone, and because it had been shared with hundreds of people, he felt like the whole world was against him. Since his death, I have had a lot of those kids come to me and say how sorry they are that they did not stick up for him. They didn't know what to do. We will never be the same. There's got to be some good that comes out of something so devastating. Teach kids that there's a soul behind that screen, and when you say something mean, you don't know what kind of a day or what's going on in that child's life. And that if we can help another child with this issue, bring awareness, there just has to be some good that comes.
It's scary to think about what they're doing online all the time.
You know, how do I know if my kid is being bullied online?
What is social media? What is cyberbullying?
It follows your kids everywhere they go. It's like they can't escape it.
It's like they live their entire life online. And it's just so different than when I was young.
There's a disconnect between what I know and what they know.
When I was young, we could be reckless and do foolish things, but back then there weren't cameras and social media everywhere.
My daughter plays soccer and we practice on weeknights and I go to games and I'm very involved. But when it comes to social media and what they do online, I have no idea what's going on.
It's crazy to know how mean kids can be to each other. Maybe it's by accident. I mean, maybe it's on purpose, but either way, it can get out of control fast.
This is about being involved. Just talk to your kids about what they do online.
I can't ignore this anymore.
I can't tune this out.
Connect with what your kids are doing online.
We now have a way in.
We have a way to start the conversation about online behavior.
Visit soulbehindthatscreen.org to share this film with other parents and for tips talking with your kids about being smart and safe online.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. So Peter, this is Peter Carnival at the end over there, the student with Mythic Bridge. And I wanted to start off with Peter. His story, which is part of the film that you just saw this evening, came from Peter and his team, who submitted a film as part of the All-American High School Film Festival. So Peter, first of all, thank you so much for being here this evening and for being a part of that really insightful film. But as a student, you know, this film and this program that we're working on is an opportunity to help parents and others better understand this issue. Can you talk a little bit about the motivation for the film that you and your team made, why it was so important to you to be a part of the festival, and what you think that this will bring about for parents and educators?
Well, I definitely want this to be something everyone to remember. That this is serious. This isn't something you could completely forget. I mean, people have died to this, and it's something that is really important. And I can't stress enough how important it is, because I've had friends who've been picked on, and it's just very sad.
In the film that you put together, can you just talk a little bit about the genesis of it and how it came to be? Is it from personal experience at your school? What was the motivation behind it?
Well, the beginning of the project, we set out that we wanted to have a gay student, because gay people get targeted very easily, and I feel that it needs to be shown that there are people the same as you and me. And we also, in the beginning, that was shown up before, she said that she was very popular and that she was just going to check her profile. And it doesn't matter if you're not popular, it happens to everyone. And we wanted to set it up to mainly focus on that. And
That's great.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's great. I think you obviously did a really great job. The film that he's referring to is the first piece that we saw in this film, with the student behind the computer who was being bullied online, and going from being excited about talking online with her friends to quickly that changing. So that's a realistic story about what often happens and how quickly things can change online, which is one of the reasons that it's so important to put a spotlight on this issue. So thank you so much for sharing that. Jane Clementi, this is Jane. Thank you, Peter. As I mentioned before, Jane Clementi is the founder of the Tyler Clementi Foundation. She is the mother of Tyler Clementi and endured a deep personal tragedy that she has taken and turned into a source of good and an opportunity for a conversation to be had on this subject. And so, first of all, Jane, thank you for bringing your story to all of us and for all the work that you do and for being such a wonderful partner. But as someone who has personally faced heartbreak as a result of cyberbullying, why do you think it's so important to educate parents in particular, having been a parent yourself and not being able to put a stop to this issue? And how do you think that the program that we've put together with a film and with materials for parents will hopefully change the conversation?
Thank you, Marissa. I definitely think that it's a multifaceted problem that needs to have many people address the issue. I think this is a great program. I think we need to speak to youth. I think we need to have the schools and administrators and teachers on board. But I think parents are a big component of that, of this conversation as well. I mean, no one wants to keep their children safer than parents do. And I think part of it is been mentioned before, that this is a new format. This is a new world. This is sort of the Wild West of our century, our lifetime. It is a new environment that many parents of adolescents and young adults did not experience when they were young. So we need to give them the resources and education and bring them on board with keeping their children safe online as well. I think one of the other issues that we talked about was that there were many people watching online. That's part of Tyler's story too. Many people are involved and no one speaks up. So it's important that we make people become upstanders, as we call them, turning the bystanders into upstanders.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I've heard you speak of your personal story many times, and one of the things that you said was that you feel like Tyler just was consumed so quickly by all of this and he didn't know where to turn, and you couldn't quickly enough help him. But the bystander versus the upstander issue is really important, I think, because not just for kids, for everyone, there's a sense of complacency that goes on when something's happening around you, but not necessarily to you, that you don't really do anything about it. So talk a little bit about your campaign and what you've tried to achieve.
Sure, and also people behave differently behind the screen when they have the safety of not really being in person and seeing someone suffering. But there are many ways to be an upstander. First, you need to intervene in the situation if you feel safe, and you can do that online as well, in a chat room or in social media as things are being posted. You can speak up for the person that's being targeted, and if you can't create change or if you don't feel safe doing that, then you need to tell a trusted adult. That is the key point. Telling your parents, telling a teacher, a trusted teacher, or a mentor that's in your life, it's key to bring in an adult with a little bit of different insight into the situation, as well as I do believe reaching out to the person who had been targeted is also essential. I think if someone had reached out to Tyler, I think the story would have had a very different ending. It might not have even been an ending, but maybe just a start to a beautiful, bright life and career for Tyler. So I do think that we need to reach out and become upstanders, and we can all pledge to become upstanders, and we can do it online or offline. It's key.
Thank you. Well, Madam Speaker, I don't think you need an introduction, but earlier this year, you announced this partnership, and it was part of your State of the City address, which was really meaningful and impactful because it asked for your colleagues to take a part in this and to take this out to the boroughs and to take this to parents and others across the city. So can you talk a little bit about why it was important for you to bring that message to your speech and to your colleagues, and what you hope to accomplish with them?
I first want to thank all the panelists for being part of this and for your contributions. And Ms. Clemente, I know that this is always very difficult, but your leadership and courage is really helping so many others. And I think that we're going to make a lot of inroads in general by continuing to highlight and bringing this into the public discourse and challenging ourselves as policymakers, challenging ourselves as decision makers in the city of New York of how do we create an environment where our children can thrive, where they feel safe and protected, that they're validated for who they are. And so I think, in light of all that, as a decision maker, as someone that has a responsibility of working with the different city agencies, with the Department of Education, who's been a great ally under the leadership of Chancellor Farina, to really figure out what we can do to create those safe spaces for our children. And we don't have the answers, right? A lot of people look to us as legislators and policymakers as ones that have the answers. We develop our answers and we develop our approaches based on the conversations with parents, based on the experiences that our children live each and every day. And so that I just felt that it was compelled, we felt compelled, and I felt compelled that we needed to figure out, based on what we were hearing on the ground, right, that people really felt that this was a problem that needed to be tackled, that we needed to figure out how do we shed light on it, how do we engage, and try to find a path forward. We're here to figure out the solution. I don't have the solutions right now, but whether it's through curriculum, whether it's bringing the conversations into the classrooms, whether it's creating the resource guides or packages that we can share with family members, finding out what the signs are. But again, highlighting this and putting it into the public discourse, I think, is a way of drawing attention to it and then figuring out the path forward. So we've just had too many tragic stories, and it really is a reality. As you were saying, Marissa, there's benefits to the technology and there's downsides to it as well. And we need to understand that. But I'm really glad that we're going to have these conversations in the different boroughs. I'm glad for those of you that are here and hoping that we'll continue to really produce some sort of a path forward and a blueprint for action.
For your leadership and for bringing it to the bully pulpit in your speech. I know that it's something that your colleagues have shown great interest in, and so we are hopeful to bring it across the city together. So thank you so much for that. Serge, hi. So you are the Senior Program Manager for Student Safety at the Department of Education. It's quite a job you have. And from the start, you already do so much work in the schools on a variety of issues to keep your students safe. But from the start, you have been a partner with us because you know, as we do, that a lot of this takes place in the home and not in school. And you've been a supporter and champion of this work to try to educate parents. Can you talk a little bit about how you think parents need to be educated on this issue and the vehicles to do that and what you're already doing?
Sure. Just to add to what was spoken about before, our existing resources are that we have a Respect for All program that we have in the schools. We have guidance counselors that deal with kids. But in addition to that, part of my responsibility is to speak to parents and administrators about this particular issue. And what we talk about are the online resources that we have and the public-facing New York City Department of Ed website. So we have social media website resources for students, parents, and administrators, which is an excellent resource. We also have a social media guideline that we make available to parents. And we also make available 2 chancellor's regulations in particular about cell phones and the other one about student-to-student harassment. And I also make myself available to go to schools and speak to administrators and parents about this in order to add a bit of context to all these particular resources.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work that you're doing on this issue already and for your partnership with us. It's really been wonderful. So Caroline, you are with Common Sense Media, and your organization has been extraordinarily helpful putting together the materials to distribute to parents across the city and across the nation on this issue. And something that was important to all of us, given that we represent New York City, is to ensure that that guide was in many languages so that the reach would impact all of the different communities here in New York. So first of all, thank you for your participation in this effort and your collaboration. Can you talk a little bit about, from Common Sense Media's point of view, given all the work you do about online education, how you see this fitting into that, and why you think that this guide will be so helpful for parents?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's so great about the guide is, you know, cyberbullying is really an umbrella term for so many different things, like griefing. They talked about it in the movie, roasting, you know, all of these sort of bizarre terms that happen just in all of these venues that a lot of parents really don't know about. They don't know what their kids are doing. So we wanted to give parents some insight into what kids are doing and how they're doing it. And then also we really wanted to make parents understand that, like, you can't really just go, oh, it's a Facebook problem or it's an Instagram problem. I mean, it really is an online issue that really translates across the media. So today it might be Snapchat, but tomorrow it's going to be whatever comes up and there's going to be a whole new thing. So there's so many things that parents, we feel like we don't know their world, but we can know their world. And even though we sometimes feel like, ugh, you know, I just want to put my head in the sand and don't, you know, deal with it, we absolutely have to be our kids' guide in this digital world. So there's a lot more conversations that can be happening between parents and kids around what are you downloading, who are your online friends, what, you know, settings are you using to keep yourself safe online, what would you do if you saw cyberbullying, all that type of stuff. And a lot of that is in the guide to really help parents, you know, prompt those conversations with kids. And a lot of times teenagers act like they don't want to hear from you, but they really do, and they need to hear from you.
Yeah, I actually think that was what was so interesting about our polling the disconnect between the responses from parents and students in terms of, first of all, what they thought that they knew, but also students say, parents thinking in the poll, oh, we've talked to our children about this, and students saying, my parents has not talked to me about this. So there's a real disconnect in terms of the conversation that students and parents think is happening, and I hope that this is helpful for parents to actually have the tools that they need to start that conversation.
I think, too, one of the things that's really important is that, cyberbullying doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's really a social issue. So we need to take note of how our kids are acting and looking, and all of those wellness checks that you do with your kid. Have they eaten? Are they tired? Whatever. What's going on social media?
So I want to open it up to questions from the audience for our esteemed panelists. So please stand up and ask a question of any and all of our panelists here. Yes. There's a mic coming to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm Kara Berkowitz with the Jewish Board of Family and Children's Services, a large mental health agency. And first of all, my first thing to say is a comment, which is thank you to the Speaker of the City Council, Melissa Mark Viverito. She has been a phenomenal resource, not only to highlight mental health as a very serious issue and has spoken about her own personal struggles, especially when she was young, but also for the funding that she's given. She's really shown support and commitment for groups like ours and the clients that we support. So I wanted to just say thank you. The other thing is, my question is, I have a 3-year-old who already loves to play on my phone, loves YouTube, try to keep her off of it, and I'm terrified because, as Marissa said, we didn't grow up with social media, and I have no idea how to let her use it and benefit from it, and inevitably she will be on it, but how to make sure she stays safe. So any advice for a parent would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Well, I think cyberbullying is going to go away by the time she's going to get on social media, so you're fine. I think one of the things you can do is to really model good digital citizenship for her. And as she gets a little bit older, you can show her your social media, share your photos and videos with her. You can do FaceTiming, which the American Academy of Pediatrics thinks is great for kids. So really get her used to interacting online, and do talk about being a good digital citizen. Just continue to emphasize those lessons. You can also do things like use your phone as, show her that your phone is a tool. So it's not a toy. It's something you use to get directions for where you need to go. It's communication. And I think that when kids see the utility of it, that helps them realize, oh, it's not something to be misused.
Serge, is there anything that you would add just from, you see a range of student ages, and is this sort of creeping up earlier and earlier now that you're...
Well, I haven't had the pleasure of presenting to elementary school students. I've presented to middle school and high school students, but the message that I do give them, students in particular, is that I make them aware that there's 3 main constituents when it comes to cyberbullying. There's a bullier, there's the bullied, the victim, and there's also the bystanders. And the bystanders are the largest constituents in that trifecta, lack of a better term. So I let them know that they need to be brave, right? Starting from middle school, even elementary school, be brave. So if you see something happening, if you see something, say something, and it needs to happen at earliest ages. So when your child gets to elementary school, 1st, 2nd grade, and begins to have these interactions with students, make sure she's the brave one.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes.
Hi, my name is Adam Massey. I'm an attorney at the law firm of C.A. Goldberg. I wanted to thank the speaker for this incredible event. One of the things that struck me in the movie, our firm works a lot with victims of non-consensual pornography and revenge porn, is in the story of Zoe, her mother said to her, the principal, we hope she won't expel you on Monday. So, within the context of all of this, I was wondering kind of what your thoughts were on the role of the DOE and how the school should approach victims of cyberbullying. So any thoughts you have on that would be great.
I guess that's all mine, right? Well, as you can well imagine, the stories are varied, right? Ranging from the very serious to what you just mentioned, to the benign. Our policy when it comes to pornography, for that matter, that is a police issue, right? We call the police in, and we follow their lead. Okay, so that's something we're very conscious about and very serious about. As it relates to the other, the ranges of different scenarios, we take each scenario individually, right? I mean, I get emails from principals all over the city, and dealing with all types of issues. And most importantly, what we try to do when it comes to kids in particular is to try to undergird them with the social and emotional supports that they need, right? In order for us to address the issue, number one, bring in the parents, number two, and to make sure that the students feel supported and loved, most importantly.
And I would just say that one of the reasons we highlighted that scene in that film is because we were hoping to start a conversation among parents about, if this happens to your child, hopefully, even though that's the natural reaction, that you stop yourself as a parent and you try to understand why and what's happening and how did this happen, as opposed to just the visceral reaction of, oh my goodness, you're in trouble and what did you do? So I think it's that particular scene right there is hopefully a wake-up call for some parents to react differently to their children's problems online. So thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the panel. It's great. My name is John Camacho. I'm a newly re-elected member to the Citywide Council for District 75. Children with disabilities, children in District 75, are more of a target, okay? And I have a 19-year-old who is very into social media. But the way I see this as a parent, only as a parent, with all due respect to all the experts, okay? I'm only expert at being a father, right? I look at the room, and this is a very important subject, and look how many people are here. It tells you how important it is for certain people. We are here. And since I've been here, I was standing right there, and I saw about 8 or 9 people leave in the room, which means that it's not as important to them as it is to me. Now, why are we playing defensive? The lady who spoke first, she's afraid of her 6, 7-year-old. Why are we, the parents, feel the victims? Because our children do not have the mentality of a bully, because that's what it is. You have to have the mentality of a bully to understand a bully. And cyberbully is bully regardless, right? How come, why don't we go after the people who harm our children? Let's say someone who starts the bullying, suspending for a year. You're not coming back from school. And those who are bystanders, as long as they don't get into the game of enforcing the bullying, those who make the comments, expel them too. To heck with them. I want my son to be protected. Why should my son be the victim and my son suffer, as opposed to go after the people who are really harming our children?
Thank you. Well, I think, Serge just somewhat answered that question from the previous question in terms of, following the law, and there are different levels of what is considered a crime and what isn't, and it's certainly the responsibility of all of us to help ensure that we live in a safe environment, but there's also, following what the rule of the law is and making sure that law enforcement is brought in as appropriate. Serge, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, or Jane.
Sure. I also want to just point out a few things, and I think we do need consequences and we do need policy, and many schools do need to have policy in place. But there's also a concept behind the bullying that you also need to think about and understand, because many times someone who has been bully should not be a noun, it should be an adjective, it should describe behavior. And many times it's just a power imbalance and a power struggle, and it's a pecking order and knocking people down off that social ladder rung. So many times someone who's been targeted ends up targeting someone else just to keep that pecking order and to get social, and it's also a lot of social pressure and it's peer pressure. And I think we need to educate people, and I think consequences are important, but I think without knowing the full situation, we want to keep all students safe, and we don't want to start expelling half the students in the city or in suburban New Jersey, I think. And I think we really need to work on educating and changing behavior and making kindness cool more than starting to expel people. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just to add to that, as it relates to students in D75, I just made a presentation to principals of schools in D75. So I understand your frustration. But to add to what we just said, we definitely want to make sure that we protect the kids that are being bullied, right? And we do have consequences for kids that are bullies, but we also want to make sure that the punishment fits the crime. And we also want to make sure that those who are doing the bullying get social and emotional supports that they need as well, right? Just an adage here, because hurt people, right? Bullies are being bullies for a certain reason. We have to find out exactly why they're bullying in order to help mitigate the situation where they stop bullying and those who would be otherwise victimized are no longer victimized.
Yes, sir. I wanted to say something about that comment really quick, and that is, I think it's actually really got us fired up here. The social media companies do have a responsibility. At Common Sense Media, we do believe that social media companies do have a responsibility for keeping their users safe. A lot of these social media companies just put something out there and and be like, what could go wrong? Well, a lot of things can go wrong, and I think they're trying to put tools in place. A lot of companies are really trying to step up and be responsible and educate users, and also put functionality into their social media that really can help to prevent it. So there is some work to do, but a lot of the stuff, as you said, isn't necessarily illegal.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Take two more. It's coming.
As a parent, my son Kia worked with Peter and a bunch of other great kids to make that movie, and I want to just note what I learned from them, from what they did, and kind of just go from there. First of all, I'm a teacher too. I teach at NYU. I teach basically history of ideas, human nature. And what I've learned from doing that and working with kids for a few decades is, and then having a couple of them, and then learning from what they did, is that the kids live in a world that we don't know. Everything you all said, I mean, we don't know actually what's going on in their world even before this technology existed. And then it's become more intensified since then. All of the great programs and initiatives that you brought up, which are new to me and I think are fantastic, have one thing in common. It's adults trying to help and talk to kids, not really being in their world. It's the job of a kid to leave the parental world behind and become a person, so they will have to instinctively reject part of what any adult tells them. My kid just graduated, and thank God, right? And part of his job is to turn into someone else, turn away from what we say. So all of the brilliant ideas which we've brought up, which are all good, have that one flaw, that they're coming from you rather than coming from their world. So the other side of that, the suggestion here, and then the question is this. In the process of Peter and Kia and the other kids, I think, I don't know how many were, Gage, who's the head of Mythic Bridge, and helped this film to happen, can tell us about that. But I think there may be 10 kids. Between them, they learned something in the process of doing this, and some of it not even articulated in the film, that we couldn't have, that no adult could tell them. And I think it changed each of them, and it taught me things. So here's my question. It's because of Mythic Bridge and Gage's work. Gage doesn't have kids. I do. Do you now? Oh, that's right. He has a new kid. How old is the kid? 1-year-old kid. This guy. When he started making this film, was the kid? Yeah? No. So anyway, the point is this, that because of what Mythic Bridge provides for free to these kids, they were able to create an understanding that no one else could tell them. And I'm wondering whether that model, besides all the other great programs that are there, each of which are really important, creating the right environment, the right social thing, the right technology tools, is it possible to create situations in schools where kids produce things like this film and have the opportunity to use their own tools, their phones actually, to create more of these things, every class making one, each little group making their own very specific, unique to that school, and then learning from each other in things that won't even get put into words. So is that possible to make that?
So thank you for that. I mean, that really is why we did the Student Festival, because we felt that the peer-to-peer stories would be the most impactful, students talking to students. And that's why the film that you saw took pieces of those films with students talking to one another, because that really is the most impactful way that we're going to reach other students. In addition to that, we are starting to roll out outside of New York City and the rest of the state, and we can talk about whether we do it here, but we are taking student ambassadors, college students, into high schools, and we are training them and then taking them to do skits in their schools at a school assembly with all of the students on this issue. And we believe that by having students up there talking about this and screening a film, which is peer-to-peer, that will be extremely impactful for those students. What we're here this evening to talk about is how to educate parents and educators as well, because those are two different audiences, and we need to educate all of them separately. But we do believe that educating students through students talking to one another is an extremely useful tool. So thank you for that.
Well, that's a filmmaking question.
Thank you.
I have a different proposal for the solution. I don't know what kind of credentials you need. I came to New York City in the inaugural AmeriCorps program, the Domestic Peace Corps program in education reform. And I served as a senior field supervisor in the nice areas of East New York, Brooklyn, when it was the murder capital of New York City, Bed-Stuy, and the South Bronx. The students in the pink houses, if anybody knows where the pink houses are in East New York, the students were bored out of their minds, and the thought of being asked to be in a special project was just exciting to them. But I said, given their reputation and that parents in East New York wanted to pull them out of that particular school, I served 4th and 5th graders, that given that, I wanted them to nominate their classmates whom they thought could go through a rigorous program and do them honor and justice, and their work would be sent to the President and Vice President of the United States, which it was. So they were given special badges. They learned technology. It was called Project First, Fostering Instructional Reform Through Service and Technology. And they learned how to use computers and to do Word PowerPoints, Word documents, et cetera, et cetera. But they became models that it changed the profile of the school. So those that were just completely bored out of their minds and screamed and bounced off the walls, they wanted to be part of the 10 children that were selected. And I didn't nominate them. They nominated those children. How about if we had a core of teenagers within each of the schools that were nominated by their peers and vetted by the Department of Education and then given special counseling support techniques, because they know what it's like. They're a teenager too. And give them an opportunity to be the kind of listening and help their students when they're under pressure, because they will have that identity and they will work with the Department of Education and they will be nominated by their peers. It might work.
It's a great idea. Thank you so much. And maybe our Mythic Bridge students can help find them. Speaker, I'm going to give you the last word for the evening. Thank you so much.
Mike, sorry. No, I want to thank everyone for taking the time. And, this conversation, we want it to be ongoing. We don't want it to just be, as we said, we are doing it in other boroughs, but even from here, I see a lot of young people in the room, and your voices are important in this conversation as well. And so any way that we can kind of continue to gather input and feedback as we develop a set of strategies, we make ourselves available and continue to partner with the DOE and everyone here to make sure that we do that. But this is the inaugural meeting, and let's make the other ones as successful as well. So thank you again, Marissa, and thank you.